an opening question, then I'll call on people who have questions for you. Go ahead.
Well, good to see everybody in a unique way to start the season. We're excited, a lot like probably everybody, to get the official start, like everybody else in college basketball going. And we've been anxious, probably like a lot of people, to get back together and have, real purpose in front of us, for the most part. We're still working through a lot of uncertainty in terms of scheduling and events, and there's a lot of unanswered questions. But the fact that our guys are going to be together and we're getting ready to take on this climb, to me that's what it's all about. And I know our players are excited to get back to the everyday business with each other. They've been at their best when they're with each other, and I think that being able to handle this with this group this year is going to be something that we'll remember for a long time, just due to the circumstances that we're all under. So, further ado, I guess we'll just open it up, and if I can help you guys with anything, I'll do it.
Okay, Zach, you got first question.
Coach, how we doing? Appreciate the time.
Zach?
I know there's probably, this is one of those things that is evolving a lot for everybody, but just as you do kind of gear up for a preseason, given the season's going to look different, the schedule's going to look different, maybe fewer non-conference games, maybe thrown into the fire a little bit quicker in some cases. I guess, how important is it for you that you've got a team that's fairly experienced? Now, I know you've got, some young guys you'll be looking to kind of step up, but that you have, a fair bit of experience returning back, just knowing that, basically season starts and 5 days in, you're in the Maui Invitational as an example. I imagine not long after that ACC Big Ten Challenge, that the season just kind of start at 85 miles an hour. How important is that experience going to be?
Well, I think that there's a lot of different types of teams out there. There's teams with a lot of newcomers. There's teams with a lot of veterans. How you handle, what's thrown at you, really comes down to your leadership. And I think that we've had some guys here that have been a part of a lot of big games. There's been a lot of, college basketball experience. They know what it feels like. So to have that at your disposal as a coach, you hope that, that plays a role in a positive way. With that being said, though, every team is different. And at the end of the day, winning and losing, playing minutes, making shots and missing shots all plays a role in how you evolve. But if it by any indication how the season ended a year ago, how our guys have handled themselves away, how we've handled ourselves when we first got started back, and then as the school year has, unraveled in front of us, week by week, how we've handled our business gives me a pretty good indication that our team is about the right things. We do have good leadership. Our young players are here for the right reasons, and improvement has been on the forefront of everyone's mind at all stages of the time from the end of the year until right now. Now we have to put that together. We have to be about, always the team approach, and defining roles and getting all that stuff sort of laid out to be at our best early. Because I think, as you related to, Zach, we're unsure right now that the schedule that we put forth, in April, that was built for a very specific reason, built around certain games that you have, is constantly changing, still changing to this minute. And what we have to do is be ready on November 25th to jump ball. And I think that's the most important thing. Take away the things you can't control, eliminate the things that distract you from the thing that is the most important, which is, at the end of the day, how much better are we going to be right now than we were, a year ago when we finished as individuals and as a group, and how much different can we be from right now to the 25th when we jump ball. There's a lot of challenges that go into that, with the lack of preseason, lack of non-conference, and lack of what I would call, exhibition type opportunities. So it's a little bit unique. I mean, you're going to start it up and it's going to get revved up from day one, and you're going to have to mow through it with a lot of different type of speed bumps along the way that are coming, that we don't see and probably anticipate happening. But at the end of the day, really we have to be on a quest to be ready for the first day on November 25th. When that happens, we have to take inventory day by day and keep building. And you know what? We're on to the next one, whether that's Maui event move to Asheville, whether that's coming out of that and heading on the road to an ACC challenge game. Very few maybe home opportunities available in general. We don't know, quite frankly, how it's set in stone, but we do know that on the 25th, we have to be the most ready team for us. And I think that's the quest. And as we talk to our guys through the entire preseason and through the entire rest of October heading into November, that's what it's about. It's about just preparing and getting ready and staying hungry for that one opportunity that when they say, go, you can go, then we're ready to go. And that's been our focus, I think, from day one. That's where we've really hung our hat, is the everyday approach. And I think our players have done a good job just hanging in there with it. And I like where we're at as we get ready to start here tomorrow.
Okay, John Blau.
A specific question about Jerome Hunter. Obviously, he's a guy that you guys had to be cautious with, kind of building up last season. Obviously, was able to play more and be effective late last season. As he went to the offseason, it's obviously an unconventional offseason. How do you feel like he handled that? And kind of is he kind of unchained at this point? Do you feel like you guys are kind of past some of the issues that you kind of had to be cautious with before?
Yeah, let me say this about Jerome. Jerome had a well-documented season-ending injury as a freshman, and in a unique way, that injury and that setback that he had was different in a lot of ways, because as much as it was injury, it was much along the lines of therapy, recovery, trial and error. What can he do? What can he do? And I think as we went into last year, we had our fingers crossed, and we were really hoping Jerome would have that opportunity to get back on the floor. And I think once he established that he was going to be, available every day, working hard at it every day, then it became the reality of, this guy's a true freshman. Not only is he a true freshman on the floor with experience, he's been out a significant amount of time from the game. And as an athlete, he's been out, just competing and doing things. He had a tough recovery. And with the team that we had a year ago, you fended for yourself a little bit. You tried to work your way in there. You tried to take advantage of your opportunities when you did get an opportunity to get in. And he did that. But I thought right around January, we were at a crossroads a little bit, just in trying to figure out what we can get out the best of Jerome. And I think the Ohio State game at home was an opportunity for him to grab a hold of more minutes. Once he did that, he showed that he wasn't afraid. He was tough. And, if he could just stay with it over the course of the next so many months, he could help our team. And I think that's what you saw. You saw a young guy in a very difficult league grow up and try to get better every day. And towards the end of the year, he shot the ball much more consistently from three. I think defensively, he was a work in progress all year long, but his intentions and his effort was always good. And he made big plays for us at times when we needed him. So from a confidence perspective, he finished the year on a high, almost as a sense of relief, like, wow, I did it. I got through it. And now it's become, all right, now I'm ready to take a bite out of the apple a little bit bigger. And I think that's where he's at. Talked a lot about his ball handling, talked a lot about his physical conditioning and continuing to rehabilitate his body from the time off that he had. He's got to be bigger and stronger in ways. And talked to him very, very early on this spring about having to handle more of a load and learn more in terms of being able to play inside and out. He embraced that. And since he's been back, he's back to sort of being the old Jerome of loves the game, has a smile on his face, competes, messes up, looks at you. Yes, sir, coach. And he moves on to the next thing. That's the thing you love about him, is that he loves the game. He's a good team guy. He's a guy that, as a coach, you enjoy being around in the heat of the moment, so to speak, because he's giving great effort. Right now, he's really heading in a good direction. Like all of our players, you're ready for another speed bump. And I think we always have in the back of our mind that, Jerome's health is paramount for us. But he's going to play a big role on this team. He has to play a big role. He has to grow up as what I would call a second-year player, and he's got to be much more of a consistent shooter. He's got to be much more of a consistent defender for us. But without question, I think he's going to be able to give us the versatility to play small or big and be better at it than he was a year ago. And, I think he has confidence that he's out there every day right now, that he feels like a good basketball player again, not a player that's learning, try to be a good basketball player again, if that makes sense. But a lot of guys been in his shoes, go through injuries and setbacks. You got to come back from it. He did it at a unique time where he had never played before in college. And, I think that as he, so to speak, paid his dues, he got to see that if you stay with it, good things happen. Now he's got to start that way and he's continue to grow, but he'll play a big piece in this team without question. To me, as the coach, I look at him as one of the guys that I trust right now that can get out there, in game 2 against Providence or whoever it may be, and say, you know what, he's been in these type of games before. He can get out there and do it. So feel good about Jerome. And like you said, from a setback perspective, we're not really concerned a whole lot about that right now anymore like we were. It's always in the back of your mind, but with him right now, he's full go, and he's just got to, like every guy, he's got to be mindful and take care of himself.
Okay, Caleb?
Coach, you mentioning earlier with the schedule, how are you going about preparing with both the team and your staff without like having that set schedule in place and just all the uncertainty with pretty much only Providence being the known right now for you guys?
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you. How do you plan when you don't know? I guess that's the $1 million question. How do you control what you can't control, I guess, is the other way of looking at it. I can't control a lot of the things because a lot of the decision makers in putting some things in stone for us are above us. The control of our schedule left, I think, when the pandemic hit. I think it was inevitable that there was going to be some setbacks once they changed the starting date. Everybody in college basketball lost, I think, 4 games. And when you lose 4 games, it just changes the complexion of things. For Indiana, it's a little different. You're obligated with the ACC Big Ten Challenge, the Gavitt games in certain years, which we were. We're already in Maui, and we have the Butler Crossroads game in stone. So those games that are already in stone, usually you have some dates, and we don't have those dates yet. You add in the complexity of a conference that is trying to maybe start earlier, maybe put some more games in the front side of December and early January, and you're squeezing things in and looking for dates. But at the end of the day, you can't, sort of jump one stone and get to the next until you have a definitive answer for some things up top, which television plays a role, school plays a role, just some other health issues that the NCAA and exempt events have to go through. So I guess the one thing that gives you a little confidence is we start practice tomorrow. And right now we're planning on practicing tomorrow, and we know that we have to be ready for November 25th. And you know what? If we have that game in stone on the 25th, that's what we're getting ready for, and we'll let all the other things sort of fall in line the best we can. But every school, every coach, and every team is dealing with some circumstance of uncertainty. We're not the only one. So how we handle it, realistically, is going to be the challenge. Can we do it better than other people do it? And I think right now, don't get caught up in the schedule and the planning. We know right now we start tomorrow with practice. We know the 25th is our start date. And for us, how much better can we get from right now until then? And we'll worry about the rest later.
Okay, Alex?
Oh, one follow-up on something you just said, and then a second part. The Crossroads Classic you mentioned, has there been any conversations between the 4 schools in terms of trying to get that played this year? And the second part is, you mentioned in your recent conversation with Don Fisher that you'd like to see this team put up higher assist numbers. What specific things can you do within the offense to create more opportunities for ball movement and assists?
Crossroads, as I know it, Alex is on, and that date, was set for December 19th, to be able to be played. Other than the schools communicating through the off season and the early part of the year, if there's some tweaks and maybe everyone's schedule, does that date have an opportunity to move to a certain time that could benefit everyone, who's now dealing with adjusted schedules. those conversations have all been brought up and happened, but the Crossroads is going to happen, you know, as far as I know. So we're planning on being, you know, obviously ready for that. You know, from an assist standpoint, and a ball movement standpoint, and efficiency standpoint, I think that, you know, number one, playing more perimeter-oriented guys, you know, on the perimeter has to help that. You know, your ball handling, your passing, your IQ, you know, in terms of being able to play the game, you know, hopefully will lead to that. You know, I think that some of our freshmen who have come in are going to play a, you know, a deeper role in the backcourt. You know, they're in the early part of the year, but I think as the season goes, we have a chance to evolve as a perimeter-oriented group that has some chemistry. I think the other thing with the assist totals is keeping the turnovers down. You know, I think that's probably more so than even the assist totals. If the assists are up and our turnovers down, but the number one thing this team has to do this year to be successful is keep our turnovers down. We have to be one of the lowest turnover teams that we've ever had here. This team right here has to play, you know, realistically, and especially in our league and with our schedule and how it may map out. You know, this team can't turn the ball over very much more than 11 times a game, you know, 10, 11 times a game. I mean, it's so paramount to our efficiency, and it's so paramount to extra points, free throws, and just in general, the assist to turnover ratio. But from a higher assist total, definitely spreading the floor out, using more guards, more multiple ball handlers who have an opportunity to make plays off the bounce and off the dribble, off the ball screens. Hopefully will give us, you know, a little bit more opportunity, space to play, and get more drives and get more sharing the ball. But something that we've talked a lot about here in the fall is just the way that we move it, how we have to move it, you know, an energy level on offense that just exemplifies team and sharing. But I just think, you know, the one thing that I'm consumed with this group is to cut those turnovers way down to an all-time low for this team. And it's going to be a little tough. You know, we have some young guys that are going to be in there as well. And I think that our competition level is going to be as tough as anyone in America, from top to bottom, from the front end to the back end of the schedule. And I think it'll be a big, big reason why we're successful is our turnover.
Okay, Jeff?
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Jeff?
Hey, working on a story about Trace and Joey, two guys who grew up in the same area, knew each other, trained together. Now they're starting together at IU. And so I got two questions for you. One, just what do you see from those two guys as basketball players? And then the second part is sort of what's maybe one of your favorite stories seeing those two guys? Maybe it's in a practice, but maybe it's off the court. A thing that if you were telling one story about those two guys to kind of illustrate their personality, who they are, like what story would you choose?
Boy, tough question. What was the first part of it?
The first part was just their impact as basketball players. Sort of when you look at Trace and Joey as basketball players, what do you see out of those two guys?
When you look at both of them, one thing that they have in common is they're terrific, coachable team guys. I mean, regardless of their stature or their age, Trace being a freshman last year, Joe being a fourth-year college student, both of them really embrace the everyday process. They want to do well by their coaches. They want to do well by their teammates. They care deeply about winning. One of the big reasons why our team was able to, you know, break through at certain stages last year and not fold at times or find a way at the end of the year to be playing their best is, you know, you had two guys that were added to our locker room in those two. Not that, you know, a guy like Armand wasn't a part of it as well in a big way, but those two guys in general are locker room guys, man. The guys that everyone around the team respects and likes. And I think, you know, when you have that type of, you know, when you have that type of relationship with two guys that play a lot of minutes, you know, it speaks volumes. It gives other guys, you know, an opportunity to feel good about themselves, and they want to play with them and they want to be around them. Both guys are competitive. Both guys work very hard. I think the big thing is they're very coachable and they're really good teammates, regardless of what they did on game day. You know, they don't blink. You know, they care about winning. And I think that's, you know, the best attribute I can give both guys. One's young, one's a little bit older, but I think they're both the same in that regard, as they came here to win. And I'm glad both of them are here. You know, in terms of those two guys, I think that, you know, I think my first memory of them both would have been that one guy's, you know, relatively an adult in terms of his age and his experience level in school. And then you have Trace, who's a young guy, as a freshman. They kind of get here at the same time. And it was kind of like they were both new, and they gravitated towards one another right away. And when they went home, Trace was working out with Joe, or Joe was with Trace working out. They come back to school, they were together. And as we started to do our summer work last summer and whatnot, you could tell that those two had kind of partnered up a little bit in terms of they were here, they're here for the right reasons. And at the end of the day, I couldn't ask for a better leadership or role model right away for Trace to be around. But at the same time, as Joe arrived, I think he probably needed to look around and see a guy like Trace that wanted to be with, his first opportunity to be at Indiana, man. The incoming guy who's got a really good reputation and name. He wanted to be around Joe. So I think both of them were really good for one another. They have a great relationship. They work really hard, and I think even to this day, when they're home over the pandemic time, they would get together. Social injustice happens. You're in downtown Indianapolis, and Trace and Joey go together. So I think they're more than just basketball teammates. I think they genuinely really respect each other. They like one another, and I think that's the thing. I probably went back on the first part of this question was, what do they bring to the table? They bring chemistry, man. Guys want to be around guys like that. You don't want to be around people that suck the air out of the locker room every other day. Those two guys are good guys, man. They're good teammates, and they're here for the right reasons. They want to win. And I think just in general, two newcomers to the lineup last year came in right away and made a big impact.
Okay, Bob?
Okay.
Yeah, hi, Archie. I wanted to go back to March 11th, if I might. What are some of your clearest memories of the minutes and the hours after your game against Nebraska when everything stopped? And how did you process that whole thing, immediately after all that happened?
I would say heading to Indianapolis for the Big Ten tournament, our team was very motivated. We had come off a very, very tough game against Wisconsin at home over the weekend. Felt like we needed to play well in the Big Ten tournament to find a way to have some confidence to play in the NCAA tournament well. And we knew that if we went to the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis and we performed, that we would have an opportunity to really grab momentum and do some things that, would put you in a position not only to advance in that tournament, but if you can advance in that tournament, you can advance in any tournament because the league was so difficult. So as we approached it, Bob, I don't think that in remembering the bus ride to Indy or heading to the hotel for preparation for Nebraska or game day or heading over to IUPUI to practice that we were real worried about now what is COVID pandemic. At that time, there were some things being discussed. As you can probably imagine, we weren't really focused on them a ton. As we started to approach the game, I think it started to become a little bit more serious. And I think people were wondering if the tournament would inevitably have to be canceled or would be able to finish it or would they let fans, the talk of fans not coming in, there started to be that distraction. And unfortunately for Fred, he got sick,
Right.
the day of the game. So when we approached the arena, the very first thing I think I was told as I entered the arena is, hey, just want to give you a heads up, Coach Hoiberg isn't feeling well. And I was like, man, that doesn't, not good for him. Is he going to coach? And, yeah, I think he's going to coach. He's going to be all right. But I never, if you look at it now and said a guy's sick, in a game or he was going to come coach in a game sick. Now, 7 months later, you have been like, holy cow, what were we risking at the time? What was Fred risking at the time? I didn't know. But thankfully, there wasn't anything there. Fred was good. And I just think as that game unfolded, and as soon as it ended, I can remember it, as soon as it ended, 4 or 5 people coming right up to me and telling me about the NBA season being postponed, heading into the hallway, getting ready to talk to our team about, hey, let's clean up and get out of here as soon as we possibly can. Let's get back to the hotel. We can be with each other and we'll take some inventory. We have Penn State tomorrow. And going to the press conference and talking to Andy Katz and talking to a lot of the people, I started to get the sense of, oh boy, this is a little bit more serious than I gave credit for. And, lo and behold, very early morning prepping for Penn State. It didn't take very long for the news to kind of come in that the game wasn't going to go on. And I think that was the first sense of disappointment, being able to tell the guys that we weren't going to play Penn State the next day. Because, you win in Indianapolis in front of a great crowd. You're going to Big Ten tournament is underway. You're excited for that, and you knew that there was a lot, that you could have done. We told our team, fellas, this one's over, but we got the big one coming up, and we'll wait and give you some plans on, when we get back, and we'll have a meeting, we'll have a watch party, we'll make sure we know where we're heading, and we'll get off to the tournament. And just as the spoiler probably came, we didn't even get to deliver that news. It came on the cell phones on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And it went from a very, very somber bus to a reality of everyone was going to go home, and you weren't real sure when they were coming back. And that's sort of how it ended. Devontae and Deron, those two guys, they were going to finish out their school year all of a sudden, and they were going to, be on their way. And the team got together, I think, maybe one more time. Was able to get together one more time before we departed and talk, at that point in time, pretty personally about our year, what the two seniors had meant to the team and the season, how far we had come, and, to be proud of some of the things that we had done. And at the end of the day, there's a lot to look forward to in terms of improvement. And we departed. And as you know, 14, 15 weeks later, they had just gotten back in June. So, it was an overwhelming fast, I guess, 24 to 36 hours. But when you really think about what happened, you went from the ultimate optimism of having a great opportunity to play in the best time of college basketball to 36 hours later of not knowing when the guys are going to come back to school.
Right.
So it was difficult. I think that's why we're so thankful that, number one, we were able to get our guys back in June. I think we're also very thankful for how we've been treated, since we've come back to school. And I also think our guys take it serious right now that, this thing could be taken away from us in like 5 seconds, if we don't do what we're supposed to do. So, I mean, there's a lot of responsibility into keeping it going. I think everybody realizes that, but it's so good to be back, and it's so good to be together that I think that taste in your mouth, so to speak, of like the disappointment in the end of the season, how things unfolded, hopefully can give you some realistic, expectations of yourself right now, and how important it is to kind of stay with it, do the right things, and let's get this thing going, and let's see how far we can take it, and let's enjoy it. Because, and I hate to tell you, like, you don't ever want to be on that bus or in that locker room when no coach does, and they tell you can't play anymore when you have so much that's in front of you still. So, and for the young guys, the players, a lot of them. These are some of the biggest games they'll ever play, and some of the greatest moments they'll ever have from a basketball perspective. So definitely a whirlwind, disappointing, probably like everybody else. But, I can remember the day very vividly, probably a lot like a lot of other people do, the day the college basketball pretty much stopped. We were one of the last games that was probably be able to be completed. And it was definitely a different day.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Tom, real quick, and then I have one more ending question after Tom Brew.
Coach, this roster from top to bottom seems like it gives you a little bit more versatility and ability to kind of move pieces around a little bit more. Do you feel that way? And is this going to give you an opportunity to do more things depending on matchups and such across the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always on a quest to have versatility and skill in what we're doing. Like I said before, I do think for this group to be successful, we have to have a lot of different type of versatility offensively. I think defensively, you're gonna be able to do some things scheme wise, regardless of who's on the floor with that team. That you have to play hard, and obviously you have to do it. But from an offensive standpoint, the burst of speed, the opportunity to give guys some space, and to play around Trace, or for Trace to play with Joe or Race. Jerome can be in there as a smaller forward, Jordan. But to be able to, have Rob or Christian and Al on the floor at the same time, although not ideal, but maybe they're your best offensive players on a game night. So definitely giving them the freedom to be able to play together more, having different combinations of lineups, and also keeping things simple where you don't have to learn a ton. You have to learn a ton of stuff, so you're always thinking. I think we want our guys, to be aggressive in their role and to play that way. But it's a team that, if it does reach its potential, it will be one of the great strengths that we have. It's not only versatility, but I think a lot of different guys that can contribute in a lot of ways.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Coach, I've had the same question from 3 people, and I'll just ask you. But a couple of media are wondering how are players and what are players being told on how to protect themselves on campus from the virus when they're away from you and the rest of the basketball facilities?
Good question. I think that everyone handles it differently and everyone communicates differently. For us, our guys know that in our space, in our, so to speak, technically soft bubble, mini bubble, whatever you want to say, that's where you're going to be obviously the most safe. That's where the facility protocols, the distancing, the mask, guys are going to be on top of you if you're not doing it. I mean, it's not going to work if you're not, so you're always in an environment that when you're training or when you're with each other, that's trying to be done right. When you leave, it's up to you, so to speak, but it's also up to your teammates as well, because you have to protect the team. And I think, protecting the team puts you in a situation where you have to make good decisions with who you're with, when you're with them. And, if you're in a large group of people and you can't help it, you got to have a mask on. That's common protocols. I mean, if you're not in a group of people that in a dorm room or whatnot, you probably shouldn't be there. It's the time that you're in, and it's the responsibility and sacrifice that you have to have if you want to play. If you don't want to play, try to do what everybody else is doing, but don't expect it to work, because you're not going to be able to come back into the facilities. You're not going to be able to function on a daily basis if you don't treat it the right way. So for our guys, I think they've done a good job. Classes are a little different this year, where probably 75 or 80% of them are more virtual. They're not out and about on the campus from 9 to 5 every day like they normally would be. So they're a little more contained there. From an academic standpoint, it's a lot more Zoom. It's a lot more less face-to-face tutor sessions. It's a lot more in-person stuff than they're probably used to, but that protects them a little bit more. How IU has set up the student athlete areas in terms of eating, when you can eat, how you have to operate with, with food, no buffet style, food. The training room rules are different. So they've gotten accustomed and getting used to it a little bit away from us, that they have to be able to kind of have their own routine. I think the good thing about our guys is, I used to think this is probably as nerve-wracking or as bad. They all live together. So they're always around each other. They have one another, and they can hold each other accountable in the areas that, after hours or, whatnot, if a guy has to be addressed or you have to stop it, it's going to be up to you to protect each other, because it impacts everybody. So we try to do that the best we can. But just in general, it comes down to the bottom line. I mean, do you want to have a season? If you want to have a season, we're going to have to do things as careful as we possibly can. No one's perfect. It's not a very easy situation in this normal everyday society to avoid people or avoid situations, especially as young people. But you're different. And they always tell you, you hold to a different standard. And I think the standard that we have to hold each other to is, if we want to represent Indiana this year on the court, if we want to be a part of college basketball, we're going to have to do things off the floor, probably more importantly than on the floor, if we're going to have a season. So I guess that's probably the best way I can. I will say this, though. Since this whole thing started and until today, I just said this to Scott Dolson a little bit earlier when I talked to him. You can't thank our administration, from our president to Scott, Fred before he left, to our doctors and our medical team, and to all of our trainers, for the time and effort that it's taken to get Indiana running, so to speak, our operation as an athletic department, in particular when it comes to men's basketball, giving us a chance to be successful. They're doing everything in their power on a weekly basis to help our guys, to help our staff, and to help all the teams in general. But most importantly, when it comes to us, because that's what I can speak to, is they've done an amazing job of educating us, helping us, and caring for everyone when things don't go well. And I think that that just sort of speaks to what we have going on here. And as the season continues to get closer, and we're going to go through problems, The one thing I can fall back on is we got great medical expertise. We have a great training staff. And Tim Garlton, just an absolute stud when it comes down to handling our guys. And Scott, like I said, in his administration since the start of the school year, I mean, it's been, it's been all hands on deck. And can't thank them enough because there's a lot of schools, a lot of great programs, a lot of great coaches and players that are struggling all around the country with different hiccups, with different problems, with different this and that. And, from my standpoint, they've done everything in their power to give us a shot to be successful. So that's all you can ask for when it comes to this thing, to be honest with you.
All right, Coach. Thank you very much. To everybody else, if you can